Welcome to the Defense and Aerospace Report. I'm Vago Muradian here at the Surface Navy Association's annual conference and trade show in Northern Virginia, the #1 gathering of U.S. Navy surface warfare leaders and indeed leaders from across the Navy, Marine Corps, and Coast Guard team. We're partnered with the Surface Navy Association covering this great show where our coverage is sponsored by Huntington Ingalls Industries, General Electric Marine, L3 Technologies, and Leonardo DRS. And we're here at the L3 stand to talk to Bill Toti, retired United States Navy captain and president of the Integrated Marine Systems Business, Maritime Systems Unit. We just went over it before we started and I managed to screw it up in the first 30 seconds. Bill, thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you, Vago.
Congratulations first on the new post. You guys had a reorganization. Chris Kubasik has taken charge of the company. New leadership team. Steve O'Brien joined you. Congratulations on Dave Johnson, a retired Navy Vice Admiral who was Sean Stackley's military deputy, and then Hondo Gertz's military deputy as well, a submarine officer as well. Walk us through the reorganization and what it means, because multiple business units came together as part of the company's overall drive, and especially in the wake of the Harris acquisition, to sort of refocus, readjust, and get set up for future growth.
Sure, Vago, we're really excited about the team we're building in L3 and where it's going to lead us with the merger with Harris. We've got Sean Stackley on board, my boss. We've got Dave Johnson, as you mentioned, on the team. And as of January 1st, we've integrated all of the maritime divisions, all 14 of them, into a single sector called Integrated Maritime Systems. I've been blessed to have been asked to lead Integrated Maritime Systems. I'm really excited about that. But what it really does is provide us an opportunity to serve our customers better by building connective tissue between these great products we've always built in L3. And instead of just building these products, what we can do is make them better by linking the sensors to the command and control, by linking the integrated platform management systems with the power systems, so we can actually be that 6 prime that Chris Kubasik has talked about.
Exactly, and Sean Stackley, of course, was, I believe, his first high-profile hire in terms of spearheading the strategy and sort of future positioning of the company. Talk to us about some of your priority programs here at SNA, because you guys, cover the gamut from unmanned systems to laser weapons, shipboard power. I mean, you guys are sort of across the piece of the whole naval enterprise.
Well, the first thing I want to say is we're doubling down on unmanned. We think unmanned is the future of the Navy. And we acquired a company called ASV, which is the largest unmanned vehicle company in the world, unmanned surface vehicle company in the world. And we are going to fully commit to medium USV, large USV, and those kinds of programs. But more than just providing platforms, it's our full intent to missionize these platforms with sensors and other capabilities that they need to have. And we're still investigating, but we want to be thought leaders in this area. We are well downstream in developing ConOps that we think helps the Navy in employment of these fully missionized platforms.
When you look at the unmanned space, right? I mean, there's obviously the submarine force, which you were a part of, looks at it as dull, dirty, dangerous work to be able to basically outsource. Nobody's talking about weapons release authority at this point, but it's more for protracted surveillance, mapping, and a whole bunch of other applications. And on one of his slides, Ron Boxall, had a larger ship that some folks were thinking, well, there'll be big ships. So, as you guys suss out what that unmanned surface space looks like, now we have about 150-foot long automated surface combatant, which was the DARPA ship that's been out there. What's the range and the sizes and the limits of doing this? Because generally folks have seen this as a smaller, like Wave Glider, for example. That's an unmanned surface vehicle of enormous endurance, range, and durability, and very important sea surveillance. What are the packages and sizes? Because once you get to big ships, folks' concern is, they're easily hijacked. And what are the sizes and compositions of ships as you see them being most effective and most valuable for the Navy going forward?
Well, we have already in the water today over 100 small unmanned ships, more than any other provider. The medium, 150-foot size, and large, 300 and above foot size, we see as what you really need to get into to provide the range and endurance necessary to have full ConOps capabilities for missions in the Pacific Theater, for example. So you'd be able to self-deploy these ships. The autonomy would take them where they need to go. There would always be a man in the loop for weapons release, but there are certain categories of missions, surveillance, for example, that could be done autonomously, and other categories of missions that never will be done autonomously. And we're fully cognizant of that, building the ConOps for both.
And so would any of the unmanned, because the U.S. Navy has always been very reluctant to put weapons on unmanned platform. I mean, certainly is willing to do that with aircraft that you can't very easily seize, right? You're shooting it down if you would have to. Would these be weaponized ships, or would they be ships that would be more for a cargo application? I mean, Dave Kaufman, Stretch Kaufman, Major General, who's the Expeditionary Warfare Chief, talked about LCUs, automate the LCU and have that be sort of a forward battlefield logistics network among islands and island chains, for example, in the Pacific. Do you see this more as a cargo application and a surveillance application, or can you see an unmanned, fully weaponized ship that has remote weapons release authority?
We see all of the above. The early easy missions are for cargo applications, but that's early traction. The really interesting missions, though, are surveillance. The network of surveillance ships that can go out there, self-deploy, and stay on station for months. You don't have to worry about op tempo, PERS tempo, things like that. As long as they have fuel, they can do it. And of course, having a distributed maritime operations capability with, let's say 50 weapons platforms that are in the right positions based on a subset of targets. And again, same thing, man in the loop on release authority, but the ability to do those things. Yeah, there are some concerns with respect to making them secure, but those are engineering problems that can be overcome.
I'm already trying to envision what the qualification process of that is for an unmanned surface vehicle OOD qual would look like what. But let's talk about some other systems you guys have out there. Almost every company is talking about distributed shipboard power. Navy wants to go to an all-electric ship. Columbia is going to be all-electric. Zumwalt's all-electric. Ford is that as well. Walk us through what some of these architectures look like, because at the end of the day, the Navy has an insatiable demand for power. It's driven the Flight 3 DDG for more power, volume, and cooling. What do you guys envision those future hybrid propulsion plants the Navy is talking about, going from purely electric, where you can shut down your mains and run on batteries, for example, in an ASW application. I mean, it's mind-bending when you think of all of the potential opportunities to use the kind of power that a modern warship can produce.
Yeah, of course, we're fully in the power management, power conversion, power distribution business in both the nuclear and non-nuclear side. And the days of the Navy buying circuit breakers or switchgear and then saying, okay, we're going to install this on the ship, that's gone. All of these things are interconnected by software. They're going to have to come to the ship in an integrated capability, well developed, not just piece parts. And so that's right in our sweet spot. And we're going to get that right. The ships we anticipate will have a power margin as a key performance parameter, because the requirements for a 40 or 50 year ship in year 30 about Flight 3 or Flight 4 or Flight 5 are going to be very different than Flight 1. And so it's going to be really important to build those design margins into the baseline configuration so you can expand to laser weapons, railgun weapons, and in future flights of ships.
Are you saying that you miss the air-operated breaker?
Yes, I do, actually.
I think you're the only person here who's like...
I've racked out many.
Okay, moving right along. The President has announced a new missile defense strategy. Full disclosure, it's being announced basically as we tape this, but there is a renewed focus and a renewed interest in missile defenses from close in all the way up. The historic way to do that has been with Standard missile, for example, or other surface-to-air missiles, close-in weapons like the Phalanx, for example. But now there is increasing focus on using railguns, using laser systems. You guys have the Helios, or working on the Helios system. Walk us through how you guys see that space which is going to become increasingly important because you reduce energetics on your ship, you increase your magazine size where the laser is infinite as long as you've got the power. Well, how are you guys thinking about that space and how you guys play in it? Because it's also a highly competitive ecosystem. We've talked to the Boeing guys who've got lasers, Northrop guy, just about everybody has got kind of a laser capability that they're trying to field.
Yeah, when you talk about hypersonic weapons and maneuvering hypersonic weapons, the defense against that needs to be something that travels near the speed of light. And so at the speed of light, if it's a laser weapon, and as fast as possible if it's not, that's going to be built in the configuration. And so without that kind of capability on our ships, it's going to be much more difficult to build defensive systems into the ships. And the territory defense system, not just the self-defensive systems, and that's really important. And we are building the beam director for the Helios system with Lockheed. Very excited about that system. I think it's going to be a very vital contribution to the future surface defense force.
Bill Toti, President of Integrated Maritime Systems at the L3 Technologies. Bill, always a pleasure talking to you. Thanks very much. So far, it's been a good surface Navy for you?
Absolutely. We're having a great time and learning a lot.
Always a pleasure seeing you, sir. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Bye.